Hello, I'm the Single Player, and welcome to the Single Player Campaign, a resistance movement against the evil emperor who seeks to control the entire internet, and my personal mission to exalt the very best in video games while stomping out the bad ones. This is our unofficial flag, but it's a copyrighted image so we can't legally claim it. Anyway, I've still got a few good video games to cover before I get into the crappy ones. Now, in my previous review, I made several references to my favorite comic book superhero. Roll the stock footage! A supporting character voiced by Michael Keaton.
I'm Batman.
And another which is a futuristic mountain climbing section, which is then immediately followed by a glide suit flight that made me feel like I was Batman, if only for a brief moment. And any game that makes me feel like Batman gets an automatic recommendation. God, the delivery on that line was terrible. Anyway, what better example of good gaming is there to spotlight than what is most likely my favorite game of the last 5 years? I don't know, but let's not waste any time with pointless background information. Let's dive right into Batman Arkham City. Oh, and one more thing. A prequel game was just announced for release in October of this year. That makes me very excited, and it makes this review topical. 6 months after the events of Batman Arkham Asylum, Professor Hugo Strange is appointed warden of a massive prison formed by building a giant wall around part of Gotham City. He kidnaps Bruce Wayne at a press conference and reveals to him that he knows that Bruce is Batman. He then mentions something called Protocol 10, a mysterious plan that he claims will make him a hero. Bruce escapes custody, contacts Alfred, and acquires his batsuit and equipment. From there, he must make his way around the city, encountering many of his prominent villains along the way, and find out what Protocol 10 is so that he can stop it. Things become complicated when the Joker, who is dying from blood poisoning caused by the climax of the first game, infuses his infected blood with Batman's and tells him he needs to find a cure. He almost accepts his fate to die alongside the Clown Prince of Crime, but is then told that the tainted blood has also been sent to several hospitals in Gotham City. With the population in danger, Bruce sets out to find a cure while still trying to stop Protocol 10. Among the rogues gallery of villains involved in the game's story are the Joker, because what Batman video game would be complete without him, Mr. Freeze, thankfully this time not played by Arnold Schwarzenegger and making countless ice puns,
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Two-Face, more like Aaron Eckhart's version, but with split personalities. The Riddler, who...
Just raises too many questions.
The Penguin, who is more like a mob boss with a Napoleon complex than the deformed Danny DeVito version. Catwoman, who is a playable character as part of the story, and more of a love interest than a villain. The Mad Hatter, thankfully nothing like that god-awful Tim Burton movie. And the immortal...
Now, am I pronouncing this right? Mr. Ra's al Ghul?
I'm sorry. This doesn't have anything to do with the game, but it bothers me, so I gotta talk about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I own them all on a fancy Blu-ray box set. And I think that Christopher Nolan is one of the greatest directors of our time. But no, you are not pronouncing it correctly. It's Ra's al Ghul. It probably wouldn't bother me as much if they didn't make a point of saying that line about the name's pronunciation. And I know that Christopher Nolan only used the comic books as inspiration, but if you're gonna put a line like that in your movie, at least take 5 minutes out of your busy shooting schedule to look it up on the internet and make sure that you are pronouncing it correctly. It comes from Arabic, which is a language that, exists, so there is a proper pronunciation, and it's Raish. It says so on the character's Wikipedia page. They say it in the excellent Batman animated series that I grew up watching. And they say it in this game. Now, to be fair, Batman Begins came out years before Arkham City, but not before the animated series, or, the internet. The art direction is absolutely flawless. It makes you feel like you're actually in Gotham City. The developers captured the unique look and feel of Gotham and made it stand out from the generic big cities of most open world games. The animation is great too, especially during cutscenes, making face movements look as realistic as possible and rendering every conceivable detail. Some characters are a bit odd looking though, like Bane and Killer Croc, both of which were also in Arkham Asylum and look just a bit too large for believability in both games, though one could make a case that that's all just a part of what makes them supervillains. The combat animations are smooth and spectacular, and they'll have you feeling powerful every time you connect your character's boot with an enemy's face.
Ooh, faced!
The music is an excellent orchestral score similar to Hans Zimmer's work in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. But I need to devote most of this segment to talking about the voice acting. The voice work was great in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, but in this game it's nothing short of phenomenal. Now, having grown up with Batman the Animated Series, I have a special connection in my mind between certain actors and characters they've voiced on the show. Kevin Conroy has always been the best voice of Batman, and Mark Hamill, yes, Luke Skywalker, it always comes back to Star Wars, Mark Hamill will never be topped as the voice of the Joker. In this game, Hamill gives his best, and according to him, his final performance as the Clown Prince of Crime. But, as jokes would say, if you've got to go, then go with a smile. But it doesn't stop there. Every villain has a distinctive voice with perhaps the best possible casting. Richard Mall didn't return to voice Two-Face, but Troy Baker sounded a lot like him, and he brought the dual personalities to life really well.
This is a place of justice, after all. Screw justice. Kill her, and they'll all fear us.
Nolan North's Penguin voice, while not what I think the character should sound like, was a new and interesting spin on him.
Am I weak? Listen, I'm what you might call a collector. If someone wants it, I'll think I've got it. And if I don't have it, I'll get it.
Voice acting veteran Maurice LaMarche, who voiced Brain on Animaniacs,
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
plays Mr. Freeze and captures the character's intellectual nature while also bringing subtle nuances of his painful backstory.
The formula is complete. Bonding process appears to have been successful. How are you feeling? You look unwell.
Give it to me.
I'm afraid I cannot do that, Batman. You have given me your last order.
This is not a time for negotiation.
I think it is. The clown has my wife. Bring her back to me.
Wally Wingert's Riddler is less like the zany Jim Carrey version of the Batman Forever film, and more like the intelligent and crafty animated version with a superiority complex.
Now, If you solve the room ahead and 4 other equally challenging ones, you save them. If you don't, then they die. And we'll see if society crumbles at their passing.
You're insane.
No, that would imply either mental illness or derangement. I suffer from neither. Oh, and yes, I can see you, Batman, and I look forward to watching you.
The Mad Hatter is surprisingly brilliant and voiced by, of all people, Peter McNichol.
Well, it's simple, really. I planted a teeny tiny little idea in your head. A sort of remote hypnotic suggestion. Very complicated stuff. I'm sure you wouldn't understand, but as you can see, it worked. You're mine now. You're mine, and there's nothing that Strange can do about it.
He's Vigo! You're like the buzzing of flies to him!
But I really want to give credit to one of the lesser recognized voice performances of the game. Victor Zsasz, a serial killer likely deemed too dark for most Batman media, is in this game and its predecessor, Arkham Asylum. The character, who cuts a tally mark onto his body for each person he kills, is voiced both times by Danny Jacobs, who is probably best known as the guy who replaced Sacha Baron Cohen as King Julian in Madagascar 2.
Everybody loves the king that is me.
Oh, Batman, you sound impatient. That is good. That is very good. You'll need that to solve my little game. You may have heard that I have been providing salvation to the mindless drones lucky enough to answer my calls.
Hardly salvation. You've been killing them.
That's a question of perspective. For example, from where I'm standing, I can see 3 little piggies just waiting for me to cure them of life. From their perspective, I'd imagine they see things differently.
If you hurt them, Zsasz, I will hunt you down.
I bet you will. But first, a little game. Right now, somewhere in Arkham City, there's a phone ringing. I know it's a big place, but you need to find it. Take too long, and I kill these piggies. And don't try anything clever. I had a friend help me bounce the signal through every relay from here to Bloodhaven. You'll never find me. Now hang up that phone and start running. Ring, 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 ring.
Now, one could argue that the voice was an obvious representation of how a twisted, psychotic killer would speak, but the performance still gives me chills. Now, what I love about this game is the fact that all the villains' voices are recognizable and distinctly different from one another. Now, I can do impersonations of each one, but I'll spare you the pain of listening to that. Yeah, my Joker before was bad enough. The combat is pretty much the same as in Arkham Asylum, but with a lot of new tricks added to Batman's arsenal. Now, if you haven't played the first game, it's a simple 2-button system, one to attack and one to counter when an enemy is about to hit you. But there's also a dodge mechanic that helps you avoid getting cornered by too many enemies. In this game, though, you can use a variety of high-tech gadgets to throw your enemies for a loop. Combat is a bit different depending on which character you're playing as. For Batman, it can be a bit slow and clunky at times. I've had several occasions where getting hit once led to several more hits, especially when object-wielding enemies can cause a blur effect on the screen. Catwoman is faster, but can take significantly less damage than Bats, and doesn't have the necessary equipment to take down enemies as quickly as he can. It takes Selina about 2 or 3 minutes to take down the same amount of unarmed thugs that Bruce can knock out in less than 30 seconds. Also, with her being a woman in a city full of dangerous male criminals, the enemy's trash talking can get a bit rapey, even when she's laying a heavy dose of smackdown on their asses.
We're gonna have fun with you, Catwoman. I'm gonna beg me to stop. This is gonna hurt, freak.
The other main part of gameplay is the stealth sections, which the game calls Predator Challenges, outside the story mode. Putting aside the fact that calling Batman a Predator might have some other connotations, I really like these sections, and have since I played the demo of Arkham Asylum. While Batman is always an expert at combat, there are just certain situations that he simply cannot punch his way out of. He isn't armored like Iron Man, so when he faces a room full of thugs armed with military technology, he has to act strategically and take them out one by one. How it works is you grapple between vantage points around the room, usually gargoyles, and drop down behind an enemy that is not within the line of sight of any of the others. Once there, you get close enough to him to perform a silent takedown, and you put him in a sleeper hold until he passes out. Repeat until the room is clear. It gets more complicated than that in Arkham City though, as some enemies have thermal goggles that can spot you if they scan the vantage point you happen to be on. Detective mode, an enhanced vision mode that makes it easy to track all the enemies in the room, is rendered useless when some enemies have jammers that you have to disable in order to regain the ability. They also have mines that they place on the floor, and if you're spotted grappling up to a gargoyle to get away from gunfire, enemies will be smart enough to start destroying your vantage points. It all makes the experience much more challenging, and I love it for that very reason. Lastly, I want to talk about getting around Arkham City. With expanding the world, you would think that it would get tedious without having access to any of Batman's vehicles. But it's small enough that gliding, along with the grapnel boost, an upgraded gadget acquired earlier in the game, combine to make you able to get across the map in a reasonably short time. This is especially useful when Zsasz plays his little game of race to the telephone to trace the call. In fact, that reminds me of a song. I'm at a place I'm trying to go home, all of the change I spent on you. Anyway, Catwoman is a pain in the ass to get around with. She can only whip onto things, do a short little swing before smacking into the side of the building, and then scurry up the wall to the initial target point. This is especially annoying since the game rates your timing for pushing the wall climb button in conjunction with a little target indicator that pops up. I'm sorry that I'm not perfect enough to hit a margin for error that's less than a fraction of a second. I guess I'm not a very good Catwoman. Like that stupid Halle Berry movie. This game is awesome! This is probably no surprise, but in all honesty, I recommend this more than any other game I've reviewed or plan to review. It's the ultimate simulation of what it would be like to be Batman, at least in a video game. The story is excellent, the voice work is amazing, and the whole experience is just so well put together that I have actually played through the story several times. There's a lot of DLC for it too, but if you buy the Game of the Year edition, it's all included. I know it's been out for a while, but if you are even remotely interested in playing a Batman video game, buy this game right fucking now. It simply does not get any better than this. Arkham Asylum was great too, but this is just pure unadulterated perfection. I don't really have a rating system, but if I did, this would be 5 stars, or 10 out of 10. And with how many times I've played the game, I'm surprised I didn't break my copy. And just who the hell are you?
Your reckoning.
Ugh.
Ah. 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 Time. You die.
I do not think so, you villainous cur.
This is not over. I am not that oversized cartoon villain from your video game. I am Darth Bane, and I will be back to break you.
Not unless you want the next bullet to be through that thick skull of yours. Relax, my friend. I will help you to your feet. That was a close one. Was it worth it? Yes. I shot him with a bullet embedded with a radio transmitter. With this receiver, we should be able to find the Emperor's base. Once we do, we can begin planning an invasion to topple their regime. Viva la revolucion! Long live the resistance!
Transmissions will resume. I'll try to push, try to keep us all down. Hope that we will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package like to keep us trapped in greed. All green belts wrapped around our minds, and endless red tape to keep the truth confined.
I'm at a payphone trying to call home all of my change I spent on you. Where have the times gone, baby? It's all wrong. Where are the plans we made for two? If happy ever after did exist, I would still be holding you like this. All those fairy tales are full of shit. One more fucking love song, I'll be sick. Now I'm at a payphone. Sorry, that was terrible.